This was an in-season tournament game last night that we had between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Suns. It was a playoff atmosphere in the building, but there was one play, one moment at the end of the game that everybody is buzzing about, and we're going to show you exactly what that is. Because the question at the end of the day is this. Let's see it, please, Director Kathy. Was this a loose ball or not? So on the inbounds here, look, Austin Reaves has the ball in the top left of your screen. LeBron James is calling a timeout. At this exact same moment that LeBron is calling a timeout, Austin Reaves, it seems the ball is somewhere between Kevin Durant's shin and Austin's shin. So the question is, should they have been able to call a timeout because it didn't seem like Austin Reaves had clear possession of the ball? So this is what crew chief Josh Tiven said about the play in the post-game pool report. He said, quote, during the live play, the official, they felt, let's see it please, the official felt that LA still had possession of the ball when LeBron James requested the timeout. Through post-game video review, in slow motion replay, we did see that Austin Reaves had his left hand on the ball while it's pinned against his left leg, which does constitute control. Okay, so that is what the referees are saying. This, though, is what Frank Vogel was saying.
I mean, it's a loose ball, and, you know, the ball's out, and they call a timeout on a loose ball. You can't call a timeout on a loose ball. You get a quick 2-and foul, we can do that, or trap, which was the plan, which worked. We got the trap, we got the turnover, the damn whistle blow. Like, it's frustrating.
The whole world's seeing it. I just got off social media and other players around the league seeing it. So it is what it is. You know, refs miss calls sometimes, but, you know, when they're a bit that obvious, you know, it's tough.
When they're that obvious, it's tough. You know it's a game that everybody cares about when all of a sudden there's the hashtag rigged is trending on social media and everyone's saying, well, is this rigged for the Lakers? Perk, what was your reaction to this?
The officials got it wrong, right? But you should never leave the game in the officials' hands. But at the end of the day, I know the NBA reviewed it today and it was in slow-mo. But it wasn't in slow-mo last night. So at the end of the day, my thing is when you think about the moment, no way the ref could have got that right. It was a loose ball. And here's another thing. All before the in-season tournament, we were wondering, the NBA was wondering, are the fans going to buy in? How can we make the fans buy in? How can we make the players buy in and actually compete? And we're getting the players to compete. And you cannot have this happen on the first time when it's the first edition of the in-season tournament. They have to let it play out. Like, you cannot let this game be decided in the officials' hands.
So you say the officials got it wrong. What do you say, Chiney?
I think that I am not surprised that this happened. Perk, you know this better than anyone else playing in the professional ranks. These things happen all the time. I mean, sometimes timeouts are called too early, sometimes they're called too late, and it just was magnified because of the in-season tournament and exactly what we sort of come to know. So I'm not surprised that this happened. And I also was watching the referee that called the timeout. You can't have both eyes on the same thing. You know, you can't watch Austin Reaves and you can't hear LeBron James yell, timeout, timeout, timeout. These things are human errors in real time. But I do think that at the end of the day, the Phoenix Suns had an opportunity to really win it early, and they had so many turnovers. There were a lot of mistakes, and so you look at these moments, and you're like, this is why we don't have a chance to advance. There's so many possessions before that sort of dictated that as well.
And I do want to get into all of those, but it just being there, Ramona, last night, it felt like this was the moment that everybody was talking about. Like, they were upset. The Suns were upset. They understood there were other things that they could do, but they felt like this was incorrect, and the fact that it was not reviewable, that's what also was unacceptable to Frank Vogel.
I felt like that was the critical moment in the game. There was a couple of plays before that I thought there was a kick ball about a minute or two earlier that I thought went the Suns' way that they didn't call a kick ball. So, I mean, in a game like this, these kind of plays even out. I do think, though, what Chiney said, you can't look at two things at once. And Frank Vogel in his comments says, you can't call a timeout on a loose ball. You know who can call a timeout on a loose ball? LeBron James. Yep. That's a LeBron James calling timeout. That's the referee being influenced by the fact that it's LeBron standing right next to him with his stature as the greatest scorer in NBA history making that call.
What else?
And also LeBron James there with a referee away from the play. And so you've got players in between him and not being able to see necessarily that the ball has broke free from Austin Reaves. But you know, you talked to some Suns people this morning. They're a lot more subdued today than they were last night. It was understandable. I think Frank Vogel, Devin Booker, in the moment, they were upset. But this was, to me, an organization today that listen, people really wanted to advance to Vegas.
Yes.
But they also wanted to beat the Lakers.
Yeah.
But they know they're going to get other cracks at the Lakers, and their hope is they're going to get it with Bradley Beal, and they still have a star to add to the mix at some point to play this LA team again.
Absolutely. So the Suns maybe cooler heads prevailed this morning, but Kevin Durant was already there last night. When he spoke post-game, what he was focused on was what all they could have done beforehand before it even got to that point. Take a listen.
Yeah, it's just a part of the game, man. Everybody not gonna get every call right, just like we're not gonna get every shot right. We're not gonna make every decision right, so we can't rely on that. It's not the reason we lost the game. I think they shot probably 20 more shots than us. We had like 22 turnovers. That's the game. That's what we should be talking about.
Okay, so Perk, let's talk about it then. Why did they lose?
He didn't tell one lie. He didn't tell one lie. And here's the thing, right? When I think about D-Book and when he went into the post game, yes, he was full of emotions. I understand that. I understand that, right? He wanted to beat the Lakers. He wanted to advance. He had 7 turnovers last night, right? He was 6 for 16 from the field. He was in foul trouble. And yes, he played 37 minutes, but when you're in foul trouble, you still can't have that aggressive nature like you usually have. So Cam Reddish did a great job all night of frustrating him. Again, and then let me circle back to Nurkic, right? The Phoenix Suns have to do something with their interior, right? Nurkic got to man the hell up. This is the second time that I done seen LeBron James constantly pick on him this year. At the beginning of the season, I saw them match up, and then in the fourth quarter, he called Nurkic up into the pick and roll. Right now, I think the Suns are 7th in the league in giving up paint points. Like, they got to find an answer. And one more thing, since Frank Vogel had a lot to say, you have Bol on your bench. Now, I'm not saying he's Mutombo. He's 7'3". He's 7'3".
Yeah, I do think the minutes disparity that we see from last season to this season with Bol is quite staggering. But I feel like you touched on it a little bit about Cam Reddish showing up defensively. But I think you have to credit Darvin Ham because this is a huge win for the NBA, the in-season tournament. You have a playoff atmosphere, and then you saw the institution of playoff defenses. And we saw in that little bit, that B-roll of like Devin Booker and uncharacteristic turnovers, especially at half court, because what did they decide to do at the end of quarters, at the end of half, after every timeout? They'd throw out a junk defense, and it worked. AD is almost outside there on the three-point line. He roamed all the way up to half court, just heady defensive, plays that were instituted by Darvin Ham that I really love to see because that's the overall win for the NBA. You've got people, not only players, you've got coaches, you've got fans, you've got a little controversy when it comes to calls.
Right.
That's a win for the in-season tournament.
I'm sorry, though. And I'm hearing what you guys are saying, big depth, all these different things. But Bol is not the reason. Not playing Bol is not the reason that the Phoenix Suns lost this game.
And I think for Phoenix, listen, they made a decision in bringing in Kevin Durant and bringing in Bradley Beal that they were essentially going to gut their roster of not only of their assets, draft picks, but also their veteran depth around players, and they were going to have to sign a lot of veteran minimum players. And this is largely a veteran minimum roster. You are not going to have the depth. They don't have the depth of the Lakers, of the Nuggets, because they made a decision in an era now where there aren't very many teams who are going with a 3 max star model. They're doing that in Phoenix. And so when one of those players is out, like Bradley Beal, it is more glaring when you look at the kind of role players who you're going to have to win with. That's why I think they're walking a very fine line in Phoenix. We haven't seen what they look like with all 3 of them. But without all 3, it's very difficult for them to match up against teams like the Lakers.
Malika and I are sitting underneath the Lakers basket in that second half. And it was like every single time LeBron James got the ball, he did not have any respect for their rim protection. He was going to drive into the paint every single time.
Absolutely.
And Nasir Little did a good job on him. Devin Booker tried. But there's no one on the interior that he respected enough to not drive in there. And that's going to be an issue for the Suns when Bradley Beal comes back or not, because he's not going to help with rim protection. So.
And it's not a player out there that they could go and get. And see, why I keep bringing up Bol, I'm not asking him to be a starter. Hear me out, Malika. Stay with me. I'm not asking him to be a starter. But I do remember reading the article when James Jones, the GM, when they signed Bol, he was praising him so much about how he could fit and how he still believed in this young man. And again, I'm not saying he's going to save their season. But if you have a problem, and you have a 7'2" guy, how about giving him an opportunity? Because LeBron James just said, you know what? I'm about to get downhill. Anthony Davis was looking like Shaq. Yes, he missed some bunnies around the rim, but when have we seen Anthony Davis actually impose his will in the paint like he did last night?
Well, that's what
that was the
Chiney
best I've seen all season long.
But I think that's more about exactly what you're saying. That's what Chiney was imploring him to do. And when we've seen AD have 5, now 6 consecutive really good games, but not do it against a formidable opponent, we were talking about last night as the litmus test for him to do that. And finally, this version shows up. So all I'm asking is this a microcosm, and maybe, Woj, you have some insight on when we may see Bradley Beal, a microcosm of what we're going to see for the Suns? Because Kevin Durant didn't seem that concerned. He wasn't talking about their interior. He was talking about cleaning up little things around the edges, like cleaning up their turnovers, like making sure he personally took that on, and he thinks that they're going to be fine. But that's sort of what I saw from the Suns last night. That's what they were talking about, is just making those tweaks. Go ahead, Woj.
Yeah, listen, this Suns team was put together to be an offensive juggernaut. They have three of the best scorers in the league, and in Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers of all time. They've not been able to put those three together yet. Now, before the game last night, Bradley Beal went through another workout on the court across the street. He was moving. I talked to him for a moment before he left the court, feeling better, getting closer to a return. Told me that he probably wouldn't have, if they had advanced, probably wouldn't have been out there certainly Thursday night this quickly. But he's getting closer. Friday will be 3 weeks from when he went out with that back issue. But he's moving. There's a lot of optimism around Phoenix that he will be back soon. And then finally we get to see what Durant, Booker, Beal look like together.
And that's really when we can judge the Phoenix Suns. Bradley Beal was out there for a good 30, 40 minutes. It was a hard workout that he went through, and certainly we look forward to seeing him on the floor.